We begin tonight with in-depth coverage of the 38 Studios scandal 2 years after Curt Schilling's company came to Rhode Island with the promise of a big loan backed by your tax dollars. The video game developer is finished.
We first told you on Eyewitness News Live at 5 that 38 Studios has filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection. That means the entire company will now be liquidated. It's the end game for 38 Studios' rapid financial collapse, which began with missed payment to the state early last month, then the layoffs of everyone who worked there.
Now Rhode Islanders may be on the hook for tens of millions of dollars. In a news conference carried live on WPRI this afternoon, the governor said he was not surprised by the bankruptcy.
The lack of a business plan when we first started working with 38 Studios at the end of April, the lack of a plan is to get to solvency. That I had my doubts right from that initial days in working with them that we could rescue this entity.
Governor Chafee also said the bankruptcy filing was not all bad because it means there could be some protection for the taxpayers.
Meanwhile, we've also discovered that state police and federal authorities have begun an investigation into 38 Studios. In an exclusive interview we showed you on Eyewitness News at 6, State Police Colonel Stephen O'Donnell says this is a criminal probe and they've been monitoring the situation at 38 Studios for the past several weeks.
Everything's on the table. Rhode Island institutions, banks, anybody federally insured, and any venture capital money that's come into the company.
We've been poring over the 38 Studios bankruptcy filing all day, and we have live team coverage tonight. Eyewitness News reporter Stephen Schuler is standing by with a look at how creditors are affected.
But first, Eyewitness News reporter Steve Nielsen is live outside 38 Studios with the Providence Mobile Newsroom to tell us what the bankruptcy filing means.
Well, we are getting a clearer picture tonight of 38 Studios' finances after combing through this dense stack of bankruptcy filing papers. We're getting a lot of answers, but many more questions remain. Stacks and stacks. Hundreds of court documents released after Curt Schilling's video game company filed for bankruptcy in Delaware. Eyewitness News has scoured them for details, discovering answers Rhode Islanders have been looking for since the taxpayer-backed company began to unravel just a month ago. Among those Rhode Islanders, House Speaker Gordon Fox, who spoke exclusively to our cameras.
All of a sudden, suddenly, without warning, there's like financial damnation and they're out of business. I don't know what happened now.
In February, hopes were high when Curt Schilling's company released its first game. We uncovered in the documents the company hasn't seen a dime since then because the publisher advanced 38 Studios $21.9 million before it was released. Also buried in the filings, new info about the former Red Sox ace. Curt Schilling has said he could lose more than $50 million. The documents explain why. Eyewitness News uncovered he is by far the biggest investor, owning 82.9% of the now bankrupt company. We found in the documents he wasn't collecting a salary. However, he was given $1,400 a month in health benefits. On top of that, he spent nearly $40,000 on travel expenses in less than a year. The big question not answered in these documents, how much is the company's unfinished game worth to help offset tens of millions of potential taxpayer losses? And it's not just bankruptcy lawyers that will be combing through the records. As we mentioned before, state and federal law enforcement have launched a criminal investigation to find out where all the money's gone. Reporting live with the Providence Mobile Newsroom, I'm Steve Nielsen, Eyewitness News.
Many hoped that 38 Studios would bring in revenue and put hundreds of Rhode Islanders to work, but the state is not the only one losing out with the company's failure. Eyewitness News reporter Stephen Schuler spoke to some of 38 Studios' creditors. He continues our in-depth coverage live from the newsroom.
That's right. We dug into bankruptcy court filings and discovered many local businesses are also losing out on the failure of 38 Studios. It's a bankruptcy sending shockwaves through Rhode Island. 38 Studios is shutting down and costing local companies potential profit.
It was a thrill. It was an honor. We did really well, and it's devastating to have them leave.
Susan Collier is an actress with the Rhode Island Modeling Agency, one of dozens of small businesses listed as a creditor in the bankruptcy filing. She and other local talent worked as voice actors for 38 Studios' upcoming game, anticipating months of work.
They promised me lots and lots of work, and they assured me that it would be months of work, and it's nothing since.
American Printing in East Providence is another local employer missing out on an expected cash infusion. In a phone interview, the company's president tells us he's disappointed the EDC didn't spread the wealth.
How many more businesses? We could have benefited 500 businesses with the same dollars.
We've learned hundreds of individual investors and employees are also listed as creditors in court records. For many, it's a loss that's tough to understand.
We were all very hopeful for 38 Studios, and we're thankful that the state did back them. I guess hindsight's 20/20 now.
To be clear, both company officials we spoke with tell us their workers were paid in full for their contracted work. In the newsroom, I'm Stephen Schuler, Eyewitness News.
Our team coverage into the 38 Studio scandal continues now. We bring in Eyewitness News WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Ted, you've been following this story all day, and it seems like more and more information is developing for what we heard at 4:30. What's new now?
We now know what's going to happen next. They're going to line up at the courthouse in Delaware. July 10th is the first meeting of all the creditors. 38 Studios says more than 1,000 different companies and individuals, including its former workers, are owed money. That starts with us, the taxpayers of Rhode Island, and now we're going to wait and see if a new investor will come in and buy some of the assets off our hands.
Will we be #1 on the list at this point because we're owed so much?
It looks that way right now. The government lawyer wouldn't say that this afternoon when we were talking to him, but it looks like there are no other secured creditors. So there's no one else who has a claim on the company's assets. But the question is, with us owed so much money, $115 million it says in the filing, how much are we going to get for those assets for basically a game that's not done?
You know, the governor kept talking about we're going to try to get every penny, every nickel. We get what he's trying to say, but that's scary if you're a taxpayer because you're not getting the full return of your investment.
No, I think one thing that really hasn't been said is there is really no way at this point that we're going to get back all that money. That's done. It's almost impossible to imagine that. So at this point, it's how much are we going to get to make up for our losses? There's no way the taxpayers aren't going to avoid taking a hit on this.
We keep talking about new investors. He never had investors in the first place. So how will that shake out?
Well, if you think about it, Mike, it's a different investment opportunity now. We're saying you can buy off some of this game material, the characters, the viewpoint of it, with no employees and no debts, and do what you will with it. Of course, that also means they may not want to put much money in, which wouldn't give us much to use, and we'd need more taxpayer dollars.
Okay, WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi. Thank you, Ted.
Meanwhile, Governor Chafee is continuing his shakeup of the Rhode Island Economic Development Corporation, the agency that approved the $75 million loan guarantee to 38 Studios. Today, the governor announced he's nominating businessman Peter Crowley to the EDC. He replaces Allison Vareka, who withdrew her nomination over a conflict of interest. Crowley is the owner of the LaForge Casino restaurant in Newport. Count on Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of the 38 Studios scandal.